Welcome back to another episode on the Expand Your Awareness 2.0 podcast. My name is Aaron Doughty, and today we're going to be going down a rabbit hole. We're going to be going down not just one rabbit hole, but possibly 7 rabbit holes, because there are 7 conspiracy theories that may be true, but they sound kind of crazy. It sounds kind of crazy. I've been in my room for like 3 months just researching. I'm just kidding, guys. I've been in my room for 3 months just researching these, going down rabbit holes. Oh my goodness. So some of these are fun. Actually, none of them are really that fun. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are fun, but the rest of them are just kind of actually dark, to be honest with you. Maybe don't watch this. Maybe don't listen to this episode. This one's a little bit... Actually, no, I'm not going to be going too dark. But I will be explaining some that I think they may be true. They may not be true. I encourage you to do your own discernment with this. But I do believe that, real talk, I believe the world's a little bit different than we're led to believe, obviously. I mean, with the media and the things that we learn, there's more good stuff going on behind the scenes, and it's something I've always been fascinated with. Ever since I went through my awakening back in 2012, I went through my awakening, I learned meditation, and I immediately, I was on my way to Grand Canyon. I was with my 2 half-sisters on my dad's side. I have a lot of brothers and sisters, some half and stuff like that. And we were going to Grand Canyon. I was with my dad, and I was in a little iPhone. You know, this was back in the day when there were real small iPhones. And I was reading online like this thing, and back in 2012, especially, it was a newbie awakened person, and I was reading like a David Icke type. I don't know if it was an article. I don't know what it was, but it was like David Icke, and David Icke is like all about this stuff. And I was reading it, and there was something about some of the things he was saying that kind of resonated, and by that I mean I felt like there was some type of cabal, I guess we could call it, behind the scenes that were kind of orchestrating and instigating certain events to be worse so that people are kept into a certain state of consciousness. I was becoming aware of some spiritual forces and dynamics as well, that we're all spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. And I was so flabbergasted. I was like, how come I stumbled across this? And it's like hard for me to find this information. And you're telling me that all of these other people in the world, all these other people in the government, all this other stuff, don't know this? I've had a feeling that there was this, and then finding out that for hundreds and hundreds of years, there were things like Freemasons and stuff like that. And the big turning point for me was when I met someone in my life that had firsthand experience with things like this. And not only that, but they worked at an underground facility for over 20 years. And they had told me for a long time they couldn't say anything, and they retired. This person's getting older now and is sharing certain things with me. And the certain things he shared that I could share with you guys is that, 1, ETs are a thing. That's a thing. The government knows about it. And it's not even the government. I mean, maybe it is the government. It's like behind the government. It's like, everyone always looks at thinking the government's the one that makes the decisions and the choices. There's other factions to it, and there's like a deeper, you call it the shadow government. We're going to be talking about a little bit more about this, but JFK back in the day started to reveal the shadow government. And as he started to reveal the shadow government, he then got killed shortly after that. There's actually him saying it, him orating, saying and talking about the shadow government and how it needs to be, it's unconstitutional, it's unjust. Some guy was on Joe Rogan talking about it. That's like an expert at studying things like this. And I found it very interesting. And JFK shortly after that was killed. And there was rumor that he had plans of revealing the information of ETs existing, revealing the shadow government, things that he didn't see as just. And but then, of course, he got killed. So interesting things. And it's like, well, why did he get killed? Well, obviously, if the shadow government's going to be revealed, they don't want him to reveal that. So what could they do? They could take him out, which is what they did. So I'm going to be sharing with you 7 conspiracy theories, some of which may be actually true, maybe they're not. I encourage you to go within and use your own discernment with this. But first off, let's just get a little bit of a refresher on even this term conspiracy theory. We hear the term conspiracy theory and we're wondering ourselves, where did it come from? You're at home right now and you're like, where did conspiracy theory come from? Well, don't you worry. I got you, boo. Conspiracy theory, the word, comes from and was coined by the CIA back in the day. And what they did is, here's the way the CIA works. So what they did is they said, you know what? We don't want people to be looking into the government. We don't want people to be looking to the shadow government. So what we're going to do with this really white voice, they speak with a lot of dictation and they say, this is what we're going to do. I am going to make a choice, and we, as the CIA, are going to decide that conspiracy theory is a very negative connotation. We're going to give people this experience that if they even, because the word conspiracy theory just means to conspire, which means a secret plan. We don't want anyone looking into the government's secret plan. So what we're going to do is we're going to have people that, or this connotation that's given around, if people question the government or look into secret plans, they're considered crazy. We're going to make them look crazy. And we're going to make them look like weirdos, so that when people think of the word conspiracy theory, they think of some guy that hasn't slept in 3 weeks, that's been in his mom's basement, and he's just got his hair all crazy. Like, that's the general stereotype. And here's the other side of the conspiracy of CIA as well. So the CIA, first conspiracy theory I'm talking about today, is Hollywood. They infiltrated Hollywood. They used Hollywood to garnish and to mold the belief system of the people. Because when you have millions and millions of people focused on something like movies. Oh, wow, I had a dream last night. I was chilling with Leonardo DiCaprio. I know this sounds so random. He was a really interesting guy. He's kind of weird. I mean, it was a dream. Maybe that just means I'm weird because your dream's just a reflection of you, right? Wow, it was really weird. Oh, okay. Anyways, so where was I? Okay, Hollywood. Okay, I thought of Hollywood, then I thought of Leonardo DiCaprio, and then I thought of a dream. Okay. Anyways, it was just a very awkward dream. That was all. So Hollywood. Okay, so what they did is they said, okay, you have all this attention. So what they do is they have these directors that are, I think even, what was his name? Stanley Kubrick? One of the leading directors was back in the day directing films, and then he was approached and he was only allowed to make certain type of films. And I think he talked about this, or somebody that he knew was talking about this. So he was then, Stanley Kubrick was a phenomenal director, but there are certain... The idea is that if you have Hollywood, which is projecting itself out to millions of people in the world, what you can then do is garnish the belief system of so many people. If you look at, and even you look at Disney movies, for example. Disney movies have you believe that you're either a prince or a princess. The princess is looking for the Prince Charming. The princess just wants to be worthy and enough. The guy needs to prove himself, needs to go through this crazy journey to be loved. And if you look at the subliminal programming as well, there's subliminal programming in Disney movies especially, which are made for little kids, by the way. And it's interesting to notice. Now, when we talk about these movies as well, this is the way I think this darker elite group of people work. Is the way our reality works is we here have free will. We have free will. And part of free will means us as a collective, we are creating our own reality. Now, one of the ways they are able to influence our reality and able to have that as much control as they do is they have this rule. I don't know if it's a cosmic rule or if it's some weird Luciferian rule that they just go by. But that rule is that they have to put it in front of our faces for us to be aware of it, for them then to be allowed to do it. It may just be some Luciferian thing that they do where they're like, nah, look what we did. It's in front of your face the whole time, dodos. Because a lot of them, they view us as sheep. They view us as sheeple. So they don't even think of us as real people. That's why they're able to do some very dark things and orchestrate some horrible things because they're like, well, if we keep people in the dark and in a certain limited belief system, then we retain power. However, when you look at this and you look at the conspiracy of Hollywood infiltrating certain movies, one example is once you find out about, okay, this is like a whole nother one I'm going to be talking about, but what they do with like dark energy. Some of what they do with dark energy is kids in of itself have a very powerful, potent energy. And there's some dark things they do. It's hard to talk about this stuff, to be honest with you, because it is pretty dark. It's actually very dark. And there's a documentary on YouTube called Out of the Shadows that talks about this, does a good job of kind of exposing some of this. It's kind of hard to find, weird enough. It's got 8 million views, but it's like hard to find on YouTube. It's very weird. And it got like 8 million views in like days, and then it becomes hard to find. But that's kind of how it works. So when it comes to this, what they do is, and it's in a way like it's like they're harnessing kids' energy, doing very dark things, and there's ways of them making themselves more powerful. Now, if you look at that of the movie Monsters, Inc., let's go to Monsters, Inc. for a minute. It's one of I used to love watching that movie. And you've got these monsters that then go into the human world, and they scare kids, and they get energy. And think about it. They scare kids, and then there's like this battery thing that then fills up as energy. And what's happening with this darker agenda of what they do is they scare kids, and they use that as energy. It's very dark. I know that. It's a conspiracy theory, though. You go within, you use your own discernment as to whether this resonates with you or not. But nonetheless, movies like that, it's like, well, we're showing you what's going on. Look at the movie Ants. This is just a general. If you've ever seen the movie Ants, I recommend you watch it. There are all these ants that are working extraordinarily hard so that they can make all of these things so that they can then give it to these grasshoppers that then steal all of the harvest so that the grasshoppers then have more than enough and don't have to work or anything. And what happens is eventually one of the ants finds out that the grasshoppers are doing that. And he begins to like wake up and realize, hey, we're working so hard to get this harvest ready before we go into hibernation. We're not even going to have enough for ourselves, but we're going to have these grasshoppers come take everything. This isn't right. And eventually, the ants come together and overpower the grasshoppers. I think that's what's happening in the world right now, by the way. So Hollywood has been infiltrated, and they've been, even the movie Prometheus. What are other movies? The movie Contagion. Look at what's happening in the world that happened at the beginning of this year, and look at the movie The Contagion. It's almost like step by step. It's almost like, I haven't even seen the movie, by the way. I just hear people talk about how relevant it is, and I've seen clips of it, and I'm like, wow. So Hollywood being infiltrated is very interesting. The other aspect of this, the second thing I want to talk about is that the kids, and I think it's very dark things that some of this darker cabal group of people are doing. But I had some firsthand experience when I met somebody. I went to my buddy Drew's house and in San Diego, and we were hanging out, and there was a lady that came to do what's called EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, and she was going around the house, and she was like balancing out the house energy waves or something with using technology and stuff. And she told me that she had a friend that was in Idaho, that's a nurse, that says that there are over 1,200 kids that have just been rescued from underground that are now being rehabilitated, and that have been through some intense trauma. So in that moment, I then realized, okay, I've been hearing about these things, but now I actually have met somebody synchronistically is telling me about someone else that she knows that is saying these. So I know it's still, it's not like I'm actually, underground doing that, taking kids out and stuff like that, but met somebody that just, it's like these synchronicities are starting to happen where I'm realizing maybe there is something else here. And let me say that the reason we're becoming aware of this right now as well as a collective is we're moving out of allowing this to happen. We're waking up, and this will not be allowed to happen moving forward. We're saying no vibrationally. And when you look at like Pizzagate, for example, which is a whole nother can of worms in itself, but there are a lot of people that are tied to that Epstein guy, that are, the Epstein guy, that the island that he had, and there's a whole bunch of extra information there. of people that have been to that island, which are also very elite celebrity people too, that are on this list for going there, which then makes you say, how are they connected? So it's very interesting to see. Now, the second one was on the underground tunnels. There's also underground facilities that have existed for a long time. I know this as well because of firsthand of somebody that I know that worked 300 times a year. This person would fly to a different location. We never knew what he did. All we knew is that he would fly 200 times a year to some undisclosed place. And this person's now retired, is older, and has shared with me certain things. This is what he said. There are underground facilities in the United States and all around the world that you go to that are guarded by that of the Army, but it's not that the Army or the government owns them. They're private corporations. It's just that they protect them. And what these underground facilities do are many different things, including testing of different technology, including that of extraterrestrial testing as well. That's one thing that this person said as well, is that ETs exist. And that the government's been holding it back for a long period of time. So these underground facilities that exist all over the U.S. There's also whistleblowers. People like Emery Smith, Corey Good have talked about this before. And their stories very much align. So it's very interesting to see. But there's those have been hidden. Obviously, a lot of people may still not know if ETs exist. I believe a lot of the ETs, yes, there are negative ET beings that do, and I think this is a whole nother one as well. I believe that this will kind of merge into the third one as well, but ET beings, I believe, negative ET beings and positive ET beings have had connections with people on Earth. And I believe that anybody listening to this right now, I believe every single one of you are multidimensional beings having temporary human experiences, and that you have not just incarnated your energy on Earth. You've incarnated your energy on Earth and many different star systems. So you're connected to many of these higher dimensional beings as well. Higher dimensional beings are that of love. They understand that we're all connected, so they would never do anything to harm us because they understand that they are us. And I think that there are also, of course, negative ET beings, and because it's a vast place, this universe. And negative ET beings, some of which most stereotypically people refer to as mini reptilians. And I think not all reptilians, but many reptilians may have this connotation of being negative, and have had connections with like the Nazi Germans, and this is conspiracy theory as well. And that is some of the rumor and conspiracy, is that they've actually had connections with many different, done things with trading materials and doing trading, and there's rumor that the elite cabal is also connected to some of these 4D astral reptilian beings. I don't know if they're just astral, but for the reptilian beings. So when you move into 5D, by the way, that's when you move into unconditional love and light, and that negativity doesn't exist, from what I understand, 5D and above. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is Roswell and Et. So Roswell happened back in the 1930s, and I just want to kind of put your attention on something. Have you noticed that from the 1920s and 30s onwards, we had such a quick progression of technology? We literally went from like radio to all of a sudden having this insane amount of what was I going to say? Of ability, like internet, computers, television, so quickly. The rumor and conspiracy is that when Roswell happened back in the 1930s, and what happened was there was an outage of one of these ET craft that then crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and that what they did is they took in these 3 or 4 ET beings, and they talked to them, and one of them, I guess, was alive, apparently. And what they then did is they reverse engineered a lot of the technology they had, and that's why we have computers today. That's some of the conspiracy theory. Now, what I do believe for sure is that Roswell was not air balloon crashes. That's what they said. They actually have like photos that came out in newspapers of the ET saucer craft thing that crashed, but then they also have like, it was a weather balloon, It's that look at today, nowadays with mainstream media. People don't believe mainstream media anymore, and it took us a long time to figure that out. You go on YouTube. Any mainstream media of where they're posting about anything has like sometimes a 20% like ratio, like literally 70% dislikes on mainstream media. You know, they can make it look a certain way on all these different news stations, on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. But on YouTube, where you have likes and dislikes, is able to see obviously that a lot of people aren't resonating with mainstream media anymore. But in general, Roswell and ET's conspiracy theories that Roswell was a real thing that existed and it was then reverse engineered as different technologies. And that's why we have computers, internet like we do today, because that helped progress us to then getting to that place. Now, the fourth conspiracy theory that may be true has to do with JFK. Of course, JFK. Okay, so JFK was on air talking about that of the shadow government, like I was talking about, and revealing that the shadow government is a thing and it shouldn't exist, it's not constitutional. And then he was killed shortly after that. There's a guy on Joe Rogan that was talking all about this, and I found it very interesting. So JFK was also rumored that he was going to be expressing and showing that ETs exist, and it's been held from the government, from the people. So that was something else that was rumored that he was going to say, and then he, of course, gets killed. And there's another conspiracy theory as well that his son, who back in the 1990s died in a helicopter crash with his wife, there's rumor and conspiracy that he knew he was going to get taken out by the cabal, so he faked his own death and then went into hiding for like the last 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. 20-something years. It's a conspiracy theory as well. So it could be that he realized that the cabal was going to take him out because he was starting to move up in Congress and stuff like that, so there was like a threat. So he knew that. Obviously, they did it to his dad, so it's like, okay. So there's conspiracy theory that as well. There's also this whole QAnon movement. I wasn't going to talk about this because it's so charged one way or the other. And I find it very fascinating. This idea behind QAnon is like some people that are going through and working to take down this cabal, this deep state, and to reverse the way that it's been going on for a long time. And they're like called white hats. Just these people that are kind of like retired government personnel and stuff like that. And yeah, QAnon is very interesting. And it's also kind of tied to a lot of what I'm sharing. And for more as well, you can also check out Fall Cabal on YouTube. But with the caveat that you sage yourself afterwards, you don't watch it towards late at night. It's very dark stuff. But I think parts of it may actually be real. Maybe more than just parts. I don't know. I'm just here to tell you to do your own research, to use your own discernment. But I find it a lot of it very fascinating. But sage yourself afterwards. It's going to be very dark. I don't want you guys going down negative rabbit holes. But nonetheless, yeah, that's another interesting thing as well. Also, there's another thing you can go to. If you go to Gaia.com, Gaia.com/Aaron, Aaron, you'll see some of the top shows that I watch. Cosmic Disclosure is one of them. There's some shows the ones with Emery Smith that I'm talking about. He's in there. It used to be David Wilcock and Corey Goode, but for some reason they took it down. I don't know why. But Cosmic Disclosure was an epic episode thing back in the day. But there's still seasons there's later seasons now. But Emery, if you go to, you can get a 2-week free trial and check out Cosmic Disclosure. You can binge watch it. I like Gaia. It's kind of like the Netflix for spirituality. But yeah, Gaia, Gaia.com/Aaron. Get 2-week free trial. Check it out. Check out Cosmic Disclosure. There's some, I guess, more conspiracy episodes with like David Icke, who's deplatformed recently, and he's on there now. So yeah, if this is your cup of tea, that's what you could also check out. The fifth conspiracy theory I want to talk about is 9/11. Is that X-Files? 9/11? No, I mean the music. 9/11. Okay, 9/11. Recently, there have been architects that have tried. Not recently. It's actually been years. Architects have wanted to reopen the 9/11 case because they cannot understand how the building fell down the way that it did. And from camera footage, it looks like there are bombs that went off at different levels before it actually collapsed. Because it hit so high up, and there's no reason why it would have collapsed the way that it did. However, if you look more into that as well, there's a whole nother, one of the first conspiracy things I ever watched was back in like it was back in like 2000, I don't remember. I was young. I was probably like 18. It was Zeitgeist. It's called Zeitgeist, and it talks about how 9/11 was like, wasn't leading up what they were telling us what happened. And that really opened my mind to some things, for sure. And 9/11, though, if you look at the way the bombs went off at different levels, it shows you maybe there was something else there, and that maybe it was some type of inside job versus it being some type of the way that it was at least shown to us when it comes to the terrorists and stuff like that. Maybe it was terrorists, but maybe they were in a way paid by the government. I don't know. But I do know that if there were bombs set at different levels, then it was different than what we're being shown, because we were not told that, at least. So 9/11 is something else people can look into when it comes to conspiracy theory. And the question would be, why would the shadow government do things like this? Well, the idea is that if you keep people in fear and anger, they're much easier to control. That's the idea behind it. So let's even move into now. So the sixth one is the cabal, the riots, George Soros. A lot of people think, I even got someone DMing me. They were like, George Soros is a great humanitarian. He's great at, he's donated so much of his money. Soros is connected to a lot of very dark things in the world that have very much harmed the world. You can make anybody. You can make Bill Gates. A lot of people still think Bill Gates is like this saint guy that's donated billions of dollars towards great causes. And people are entitled to believe whatever they want, but the evidence shows. Go to one of Bill Gates' newest posts on Instagram, where it has over like 400,000 comments. People do not want to be vaccinated. He is banned from like many different countries, not even allowed in because so many kids have died from his little vaccinations. And I guarantee you, he would never put those vaccinations in himself or his kids, but yet he is advocating for it. Why? Because he's a puppet. He is a puppet. And this vaccination program is something that will then allow people to have different things put inside of their body, many of which wouldn't be disclosed. It wouldn't be at least what we think it is. And it would be things that keep people in low vibration, or some type of chip or something else that then allows people to be more easily controlled. The way that this cabal works is if you insert a problem, you then get a reaction, and then you can give the solution, and the solution is something you want to give. So if you want people to open to vaccinations, you can make or have this thing like COVID, and then what you can do is you can have it even worse than it naturally is. You can make it very much exaggerated, which was what the media did. Yes, it was a thing that existed, but it was not nearly as bad as it was being shown. And then people get into a stage where, I just want safety. I just want to be safe. Oh, this vaccination's a solution to me feeling safe? Great. Shoot me up. And if you don't get shoot up, or you don't shoot up your kids, and you're putting my kids at harm, and it creates this big division. That's the idea behind it. So personally, my own intuition tells me that Bill Gates is not this saint that everyone thinks he is, but he's also, maybe he's not, I don't think he's the mastermind genius behind all this. I think he's just a puppet. That's personally what I think. Even with Soros, when we look at Soros and all of his money and all this stuff, and I don't think he's a saint. I don't think he's this great humanitarian that everyone thinks he is. I think there's more to this puzzle that's being shown. And when you talk about the cabal and the riots that are happening right now in the world, like, yes, of course, racism exists. We need to look at this. We need to let it go. It's outdated. Judging people for the color of their skin is ridiculous. It's an outdated idea. African Americans and people of color have been treated poorly for such a long period of time. And it is time we let go of this, and it's coming up for us to let go of this energetically. But on the other side of this, why are people reaching out to me and people all over the United States saying that bricks are being planted in different locations that are conveniently then being able to be thrown? Why are people saying that cop cars are being vandalized by cops and wrote BLM by cops on it? Why are the people saying that cops' cars are already vandalized that are being brought into these riots and staged, so then it's looking like, black people are writing BLM all over it? There's a certain narrative that I think the media wants to sell. There are people that are claiming that they are going undercover, that they're being offered to be undercover to like make and instigate to make these things way worse. Why would they be doing that? I don't know. But I do know that people are reaching out to me saying these things. People that live in apartment buildings that can see these things being brought in, these cars be brought in and stuff. It just makes me question it once again. Could it be because if the more people are in conflict with each other and the more separated people feel, the more easily they are able to be controlled? Could it be that then if they wanted to bring out martial law or curfew, that then it's easier for them to do that because there's so much chaos in the world? You see, there's some other ulterior agenda that may be here. It's a conspiracy theory. I don't know. All I say is maybe look into it. Yay. The 7th conspiracy theory I want to talk about is Antarctica. Whoa, you probably didn't know I was going to talk about this one, huh? Wow, this is new. New content from Aaron. Antarctica. So rumor is it as well. There was some guy that was also on Joe Rogan. There's always some guy on Joe Rogan that was talking about how Hitler did not actually die in Germany. Like they said, Hitler actually lived a long life. He then went undercover and lived in Central America, lived in underground places, and the rumor is that he eventually went to Antarctica. And the idea behind Antarctica is that there's like a spaceship that has been crashed, is in Antarctica, and is being covered by ice. Huge, like mothership apparently as well. Corey Good has talked about this. He's from that show Cosmic Disclosure. I think I've heard Emery Smith talk about this as well. And the idea is that we think, ET contact is going to happen because ETs are going to come to the planet. And the idea is that Gaia herself may actually reveal ETs by the Antarctica, like the Antarctica where this ship is under ice is beginning to melt. And as it melts, it's going to reveal this huge mothership that can be seen from satellites. That would be very interesting. And the idea is that there's, Antarctica is this big no one goes there. It's so cold, you can't survive. And that may be true, but there may also be another deterrent there from people going there because maybe there's this ET technology that is under the ice that has then been looted or they've gone through and like torn out everything. But apparently there's some whistleblowers that have said they've been to Antarctica, they've gone in, they've done research in these little these spaceships, which I find to be very interesting. So Antarctica may be something that we learn more about moving forward, and we'll see. What I would love to hear from you is if any of these conspiracy theories resonated with you, let me know what your favorite one is on Instagram at Aaron_Doughty44. And also could you share this episode if you liked it on Instagram story and tag me, and I'll be reposting those as well. Lets me know to keep on going. If you haven't already as well, it would really mean the world to me if you were to review the podcast on iTunes. If you don't have iTunes, find a friend that has iTunes, has an iPhone, and say, yo, let me review someone's podcast real quick. It just take a second, and then review the Expand Your Awareness 2.0 podcast. It really means the world, and it helps me know to do more. Like I said, if you didn't know already, I want to take these podcasts to the next level, and what I'll be doing is I already have the Joe Rogan podcast mic. Step 1, cool headphones. Step 2, I'm recording it. Step 3, step 4 is I'm actually going to be bringing on some really cool influencers and doing interviews where I talk, not interviews, more of like conversation. Kind of Joe, I like Joe Rogan. It'd be kind of like that. I don't see anyone really doing it in spiritual awakening niche, so I'd love to do that. I'm getting this house in Sedona, and I want to convert one of the offices into, there's like this office with 2 different sections, and I'd like to have it as a podcast studio and to have influencers come in, us have conversations. I think it'd be really cool. Let me know if you're excited about that. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, I'll see you on the next one. Peace, much love, and namaste.